G'day folks, thanks for turning the dial to Rex Hunt Fishing Adventures YouTube right here in Melbourne, Australia, and we're beaming across the globe. You know how I know? Because of the wonderful response I get from all you people, and from the right up the top tip of the Northern Hemisphere right down the bottom of Tasmania. It's great to have you on board. And I tell you now, some of you people are bringing back memories I didn't even think I'd remember, but it's just magnificent. So keep all the comments coming through, and it's great to be servicing you right throughout the globe. Bob Grief, my long trusty producer who's put up with a lot with me, he's been down in my cellar and found some unbelievable stuff with dust on it. We've got a new machine that's going to take some of that wonderful footage of the 80s and 90s and put it onto the stream that we do. But I want to open up tonight's show on a sad and happy note. And you'll say, what on earth is going on? We've lost a member of our team, and he's named Garry Barmby, who was managing director of Garry Barmby's Fishing Adventures, Angling Adventures it was called. And he took us to the world. And a lot of you people will recognise the name. And when you see him fishing with me in the Timor Sea for GTs and also Spaniards, you'll say, I remember that bloke. But he wasn't only a brilliant businessman, he was a wonderful angler, a great friend of so many, and a wonderful cricketer in his own right at Geelong North Cricket Club. And for those people that don't know where Geelong North is, it's just north of Geelong. So, I just want to say to Shane Mensforth, our representative in South Australia for so many years, he'll be tuned in with Mary down on the York Peninsula, and he was one of the very first to know that Garry was in a bit of trouble and lost his fight for life a couple of weeks ago in Adelaide. But back in 1982, I met Garry, and he helped me get to where I am today. I'm serious about that. He helped me with my travel business with Lynn and I, Rex Hunt's Fishing World Travel. And then we teamed up together and became a fantastic force on the television. So without any further ado, Bob has been down in the cellar. He's picked out a beautiful story, and you'll see what I'm talking about. He's not only a good bloke, but he's also a wonderful fisherman. This is Rex Hunt Fishing Adventures, dipping our lid to the wonderful, recently passed Garry Barmby. I spoke to Shane Mensforth a few moments ago before we went live to air on Rex Hunt Fishing Adventures YouTube channel, and I said, do you think Dorinka would mind if I paid tribute to her husband? It's a tragic thing when you lose a lifelong partner, and Dorinka, to you and the kids and your family and your grandchildren, we send our sincere condolences at the loss of Garry. But have a look at what's coming up, because this is what he did well and he did best. He'd organised trips to go fishing, and it was time to fish, he could fish. Daniel's got his finger on that button that says play, and young man, I think you better press it.
Oh, thank you, Mother, for the rabbit. Oh, unbelievable, folks. Rexy boy has done it again.
On tonight's show, folks, I troll with Mr. Angler Garry Barmby around Melville Island in search of Spanish mackerel and giant trevally. And those terrible twins Steve and Bushy are off the Queensland coast on Fraser Island, pumping yabbies and fishing for whiting.
Wahoo with
Rex.
Gone fishing. Listen up, going on back. Wahoo with
Rex.
Gone fishing. Listen up, going on back.
One or two birds starting to move there, Gary. The rest aren't interested, but it's getting to the stage of the tide where something is just about going to happen. I can feel it in my water, mate.
They're true indication of lunchtime, aren't they?
Oh, for sure. Still, the tide's not right, the fish are not interested, are they?
No.
With this bommy here, it's got to go off. There's just too much of a smell of the old fish about it, isn't there?
Everything looks right.
Yep. Yes, Gary? Gary, that was a Mayor of Hiroshima job, mate, when he took that.
Wake you up.
Mate, it did wake me up. We folks have hooked a submarine, I think. This is an Indonesian submarine just coming in and having a look at the Australian waterway. We're trolling an area that comes out of a pretty deep sort of a trench up onto what's called a bombora. Now, bombora is a reef, rock, oyster shells, and weed. And around it, there's cover, and also around it, there is food. And whatever has eaten this lure is not happy at all. He's taking line now, so I don't give him any pressure other than is on the preset drag of this reel. And I can adjust it, but you can see there now he is taking line under pressure. And it's no good me winding because all I'm going to do is waste my energy. So, but the most important thing now is that he's upset. I think he's upset. There's no doubt about it that he's saying, gee, there's Garry Barmby from Angling Adventures. Who's that big bearded fella with him? So we can get some line back now because he's decided, well, gee, that's a little bit strange. This is the point where a lot of young players and novice anglers lose fish because they freeze. They put too much pressure on the fish. But the fish has got plenty of grunt left in him at the moment. Here he comes. I've got a bit of colour now. Gary, I reckon it's a Spaniard.
Well, you
I
guessed
reckon
it
it's
before.
an Olay mackerel, a Spanish mackerel. I tell you what,
It is huge.
I used to know the centre half-back for Spain, Manuel Labour. Remember him? Unbelievable, the old Manuel Labour. He's a nice Spanish mackerel.
Oh, yeah. Look at the size.
You
of
reckon he's
that.
all right, mate, or right?
Oh,
You reckon he's all right?
look how thick across the back.
Now, the most important thing now is for our gaff man to do a good shot. But now he is a very, very nice fish. And that's how to do it, folks. Thank you, Paul. That is a Spanish mackerel to end all Spanish mackerels. I reckon the best part of, I give him 12 and a half kilo. Spanish mackerel in the Timor Sea. Olé! We have been slammed like the Southern Aurora. We've had 3 rods go off like you wouldn't believe. Our guide Paul has been cleaned up at 1,000,000 miles an hour. He's off. I got a Rapala on with something that's eaten it. Gary's got a little reflector lure. And Gary, how you going up there, mate?
Well, I'm starting to get somewhere, but he's probably just playing with me at the moment, I think, Rex.
Gee, that's nice. Beautiful water, eh?
Ah, it's lovely.
top of the tide is apparently the time to fish here. When tide gets down a bit and you get into your springs, which is high highs and low lows, gets a bit dirty and the fish can't see the lure. But on the neap tide is when you have not a high high and not a low low. You'd almost make a song about that, couldn't you? Might go top of the charts. Not a high high, not a low low. Here we go fishing, go, go, go. I think I'll stick to fishing, folks. Now, we're going to put a little bit... What do you got there, Gary? What do you got there, mate?
Oh, we still haven't got colour yet.
Are you agreeing with Paul that I should stick to fishing?
Oh, it makes it a lot easier.
Oh, gee, he's got some hunger left in him, this bloke. They got the trevally feel about them, Gary.
Certainly do.
They got that sort of thump, 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 thump with this gigantic tail that they get all their strength from. These could well be giant trevally, commonly called GTs up here in the top end of the best country in the world. Our guide Paul is doing a great job too, and it's a team effort. He mightn't be hooked up, but it's his job to get and manoeuvre that boat into an area where Gary and I can sort of have a look at these fish here. I've got colour here now, and it is a trevally, and there's another one underneath following him up. Where are we now? Here we come. It's a and look at the fish behind him. Have a look at the fish behind him. Now this is magnificent stuff. Don't worry about that. Look at that fish behind him. Just fantastic stuff. And they lay on their side and have a look at his mate behind him. That's a good lesson. Now that's a giant trevally. Yep. And he'll grunt. You see the lure there. He hasn't eaten the lure, he's gone for it, and the lure's flashed. And that's not a bad sort of a fish. So he's going to go in the frying pan tonight back at the camp, up at the Jessie River. Sorry about the water on the lens, folks, but I tell you what, this is Rex Hunt's office. Step into my office, folks.
Rex, and thank you, Mother, for the rabbits.
That's serious fish, but Gary just doing what he loves doing. Good on you, Gaz. We're going to have another little bit in a moment. I've got my phone here, which I ban, but it's on silent, so and it's on mute, and I think that says it all. But I just had a look at that footage and saw the importance of a fishing rod. A fishing rod should be an extension of your arm. And so many people change across from right to left and wind, or they are fair dinkum right-handed anglers, and all of a sudden they play with the left hand. So the rod should be an extension of your arm. And Wes, you're watching this, even if it's your little two-weight stalker fly rod that you talked me into, which is magnificent, and I caught some nice fish in the McAllister River during the week. Or it's a surf rod, you know, a four wrap 7144 Butterworth, all that sort of stuff. The rod is the most important thing. Now, before we go back and have a look at the Timor Sea again, we've got Fishing Mafia, just fantastic, and a lovely tribute to Garry Barmby. Good on you, Fishing Mafia. And that little bit of footage up there at the Exford Weir, I call it, but I think it's called the Melton Weir with the reddies. Well done on the floats. Bluey, you're in Dubbo. Fantastic, mate, Dubbo. If that ain't Australia, I'm not bald. Greg Lockwood, good on you. And Carl Carley, happening with the boat ramps. Don't talk to me about the boat ramps. That's another time. And so's with me. This is just absolutely frightening. Me. Anyhow, here we go. Part 2 of the Garry Barmby tribute. We know he was a good fella. He didn't have to pass on to be a good fella. And let's pick up the action again on the high seas. It's called the Timor Sea, and he's with me.
Rex. Gone fishing.
How you going there, Gary?
Just starting to get colour. There still seems to be a couple following them around. They stick together, don't they?
They sure do.
There we go.
There.
Couple following him again.
How'd you like... And a couple of fish following. How'd you like to get one of these 50-pound? Have a look at them.
Oh, geez, it'd take a while.
Fish behind them, Gary.
Oh, they're strong.
Then they get on their side. Oh, magnificent this is, folks. Look at that pressure on that rod. And the rod is designed to tire the fish out. With a properly adjusted drag, the angler can angle. Isn't that a good looking fish? Ooh.
Oh, Mr. Murphy's reflector lure's working.
Yeah, they're all right. Yeah, they're good looking lures, aren't they? Well, what I might do, I might just lift him in. Just lift him in now. This won't hurt the fish. This won't hurt the fish because what we want to do, he's still, look at his mate there. Have a look at his mate, Gary.
Might be
I'm
his
gonna
wife,
send,
mate.
Yeah, mate, I'll send you back to your missus. I tell you what, I'm missing my missus up here, so I suppose he's got a right to be missing his wife. You find that, and you watch him, he'll turn over, I'll give him a bit of a kick, and off you go, mate. There he goes.
Oh. Back
Now
to the family.
The coin of phrase, mate, with a famous man sitting on the end of the old trench there with a can of Foster's. It doesn't get any better than this, folks. I'm telling you.
There's a bit of weight about this fish.
Yeah, a bit of weight. There's a bit of displacement, mate.
Yep.
Very, very important to our guide, Paul, to keep us on track, to keep the boat pointing. What do you reckon she is, Gary?
A real big barramundi.
Ooh. See how good he is. Ooh.
Not all that big, it's just
Foul hooked. Well, how about that?
Well, she's big enough, but...
Oh, yeah, she's a nice fish. Now, what we might do, she's had a nip on the nose as well, Gary. Have a look at her. Now, what I might do is... I've got her now. We can bring her in. She's a beautiful fish, mate.
Yeah, just gave me a lot of trouble being foul hooked.
She's a beautiful fish. Right, I'll just get these hooks out. One. Now she's had a go on the snout. Now have a look at that in there, folks. You talk about Luna Park. Don't ever worry about using big lures for barramundi. That again is a magnificent Northern Territory barramundi. And that's what you come here for, Gary.
Yes.
Congratulations,
Beautiful.
son.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Paul. A great bit of skippermanship, if there is such a thing.
Wonderful fish, beautiful.
She is just magnificent. My absolute dream is to come up here forevermore and catch these magnificent fish. And just get her right and sit her up and just turn you over, face you into the... Come on now. Come on. She should give a kick in a minute. Come on. Backwards and forwards. Backwards and forwards. Come on. Come on.
She goes, not a problem.
Rex. Gone fishing.
Some fairly good yabby holes
here.
here.
Running around on the flats, the soldier crabs. And then the yabbies are the holes in amongst them.
Yeah.
You can see where stingrays and
That's
fish and
right,
things have been
stingrays.
feeding up here. Fantastic. Oh, well, I might drop the gear here.
Oh, Steve, we're right on top of a fairly good yabby bed.
Yep.
There you go.
I'll have a go. Oh, there we go. A few little ones there and a couple of keepers. That one there's not too bad, Bob. Hang on to him and throw the others back in the hole. You know, the success of most forms of bait fishing depends on having the right bait, and you can't get better bait than live bait. I'm here with Bob Tahira on the flats on Fraser Island, not very far from Kingfisher Bay Resort, and we're pumping live yabbies, or pink nippers as some of you will know them. They're found right around the southern part of Australia and even up in the tropics, although they're less often used as bait up there. What we're going to do today, Bob and I are pumping the bait. Bushy should be here helping me, but apparently he's studying the tides at the moment. He's going to come down and join me after we've done the hard work, pumped all the bait, and we're going to try and catch some whiting here on these beautiful flats. Bob tells me that there are some lovely sand whiting out here at times, and we've certainly got the right bait. It's really interesting to notice. I mean, a lot of people would pick up all the little ones, Bob, but I see you're throwing the small ones back in the hole.
I prefer to do that, Steve, yeah.
So you've got bait for the future as well.
That's right.
You must work these areas fairly consistently, so you want to make sure you've got bait there for next time, don't you?
Absolutely.
All right, show me your pumping technique, because I did see you pumping some bait before, and I noticed you were going in fairly deep.
Yeah, I was too.
So the bigger ones tend to be down deeper?
Down a little bit deeper, Steve.
All right. This looks pretty good.
That looks good, Steve.
Plenty of holes there.
I tend to go just a little deeper than you do. I notice
Yeah.
you kind of work around the surface there. There's two handles which I push the left handle down and pull the right handle up, and it does its own thing.
Sucks itself in.
Take the sand out and squirt it. Now I'm after the water, which is where the yabbies are. And when I spray, I kind of spray.
Spread it out so you can
spread
see
it out
them.
a bit.
Now there's a lot of little ones. Just drop them back in the hole.
That's just back in the hole. That's not too bad.
He's a whiting, if they're on the boat.
That's a whiting.
Yeah.
Well, it's a yabby, but...
Well, we might be able to turn it into a whiting.
we turn it into a whiting. And I find that by putting the small ones back, when I take our guests here at Kingfisher out to pump for yabbies, let them know that we want those small ones to go back in again.
Well, it's just like fish, isn't it? You let the little ones go.
Yeah, of course, yes,
For the future. So that one's just a keeper.
Just a keeper, yeah.
And the other ones can go back down the hole. It doesn't take too long, what, 15, 20 minutes of pumping and you'd have enough for a couple of hours fishing, wouldn't you?
Sure, mate. You've got a lot of bait in 15 minutes, and it's what a way to start your fishing.
Now, there are thousands and thousands of holes on these flats, but some are far more likely to contain a yabby than others are. I particularly like these ones that look like little volcanoes. They're obviously being actively used because the entrance is quite neat, and also sometimes you'll see water and sand actually pumping out of the hole. That indicates that there is definitely a yabby in that hole. Other holes like these ones that are eroded around the edges and don't have the little mound are much less likely to produce a good bait. So concentrate your effort on the little volcanoes. Yep, that's a beauty. Look, I tell you what, Bob, I reckon we've got enough, don't you? Look how many are in there.
Oh,
that's
yeah.
great. We've certainly got enough yabbies now to catch ourselves a feed of whiting. All I've got to do is find Bushy. He's supposed to be getting his tackle ready and studying the tides. We'll see if we can find him.
Yeah, all we do is travel around the world, just fish. It's a pretty tough job, really. Yeah. My assistant Steve's over there getting the bait now, but yeah, it's pretty tough. Steve?
Oh, Bushy, about time. What's with the drink?
Well, it's hot work checking those tide charts, Steve.
What is the tide?
Probably about half out and falling.
You are hopeless, Bushy. There's a bucket full of bait over there. We've pumped them. I'm getting bites already. Go and grab some.
Okay.
I think the whiting are here. Oh, I tell you what, it's hard to get good help. Catching whiting's a fairly simple process, and you can use the same techniques wherever these wonderful fish are found. I'm just going to take one of the yabbies that we pumped onto a chemically sharpened long shanked hook. I'm using about a number 6 hook here. It's on about a 20 to 30 centimetre leader of 2 kilo line to a small swivel with a bead above it, and then I've got a running sinker above that. The bead's just purely to stop the sinker damaging the knot when it bounces up and down on it all day long. I've also got a couple of little coloured beads here just ahead of the bait. These act as a bit of an attractor, or especially when your bait's been picked at by the smaller fish and there's not much bait left on the hook. Now I'm standing here in about knee-deep water. I'm going to cast out into water that's only a metre or so deep. The whiting are often in very shallow water. As soon as my bait hits the water, I'll take up the slack, move it a little bit just to straighten everything out and create a little puff of sand on the bottom that attracts the attention of the whiting. Then I hold the rod out to the side, watch the bites on the tip. I'll actually let the fish pull the rod tip around, and when I think he's got it, I'll set the hook and I've got him. He's only a little one, this one. But that's whiting fishing. If you don't get any action in a couple of seconds, you really should start moving the bait. They like a bit of movement, bit of activity, and there he is. That's a tiny little whiting, little sand whiting. And the very interesting thing about whiting is the shape of their mouth. You can tell a lot about how they feed. They've got this little down-turned mouth, relatively small mouth, and when it opens, it actually angles down. Very similar to a bonefish. and they feed in exactly the same way. They're feeding on small invertebrates, worms, crustaceans that live on or in the bottom strata. They've got a fleshy area here on their nose as well, and what's called an adipose eyelid. It's a fatty, clear eyelid that allows them to actually stick their head into the sand and not get any irritation from the sand. You learn a lot about fish from looking at their feeding equipment.
Oh, feels a little bit, yeah, this is a little bit better one, Steve.
Gee, he was certainly close to you, wasn't he? Is it a flathead or a whiting? I don't know.
That's a whiting, that's a bit better whiting.
Yeah, that's getting closer.
That's pretty close to the legal limit. We won't keep him, but that's a little bit better fish, just for the small school whiting. Beautiful little fish. So strong, Steve. They've got a lot of muscle.
Oh, I love catching them. Once they get up to that 400 gram sort of size, around the old pound.
Lively.
I don't think there's anything better that weighs a pound that pulls as hard as them.
It's quite pleasant standing in that shallow water too. You're not out in boats with surf crashing all over you. Look at that, lovely little fish. We'll let him go anyway. Probably just about make a meal, that one, Steve, but I don't think we need it too badly when we're staying in Kingfisher Bay Resort with the meals they've got.
Now, that's a different sort of bite. Got him. Ooh, gee, there's a little bit of weight in that. That wasn't very far out at all. Ooh. I tell you what, it's a brim. Quite a reasonable little brim. You know, we're targeting whiting. It just goes to show you do go out and target a fish. It's definitely a better way to go. Sometimes you ask people, what are you fishing for? And they say, oh, well, whatever comes along. You're much better off to target a species, and today we're targeting whiting, but of course that doesn't mean that other things won't get on the bait. Flathead, brim, there are all kinds of things that'll eat these yabbies here in this shallow water. He's a nice little brim. Be very close to legal length, might even be legal length, but I'm just going to pop the hook out of him. Now these waves that are coming in, what's actually happened is the ferry has arrived. It comes across from Hervey Bay, brings the people out to stay at Kingfisher Bay Resort. Some of them are day visitors, some come to stay for a week. But it's amazing that you can get off the ferry, walk 50 metres down here onto the beach and catch beautiful fish like this all day long. It's the middle of the day. People are sitting up in the restaurant having lunch right now. Tell you what, it's not a bad spot. I don't know what this one is, Bushy it. You were dead right. I foul hooked it. It's a whiting jagged in the side. He was obviously going for the bait. It's one of those, again, it's not as tiny as the first ones we were catching. It just goes to show how sharp those chemically sharpened hooks are to actually go through the scales on a whiting when I've struck. What have you got?
Well, I've got some form of small flounder.
Look at that.
Look at the camouflage on that, Steve. If that
What a beauty.
If that was lying on the sand, you
Yeah.
have absolutely no chance to see that.
And he's a left-eyed flounder. The amazing thing about the flounder is when they're born and they're just a juvenile, they swim like an ordinary fish, upright in the water with a shape not unlike a brim, swimming along like that. And then as they get a little bit bigger to about the size of a 10-cent or a 20-cent coin, they go and lie on the bottom, and they actually lose the pigment then on one side of the body and go that pale white underneath, and they develop this camouflage on top. And what's happening all through that process is that their eye actually migrates around their head. It sounds pretty strange, but they actually have an eye on either side of their head when they're born, and the eye migrates around, and there are left-handed and right-handed right-eyed flatfish. Some the left eye goes around and joins the right eye, and some the right eye goes around and joins the left eye. It's a wonderful adaptation of nature. And they've got a reasonably large mouth, and the interesting thing is that the mouth stays in the same alignment as if they were a vertically swimming fish. Even they lie on their side, the mouth stays in the same format, and there's some little teeth in there as well. They're a little predator. They hunt for worms and yabbies and little crabs, and when they get bigger they'll actually eat little bait fish as well. I've caught them on lures. They will jump off the bottom and take especially a soft plastic. Yeah, there he goes, and he's just swimming down. Looks like a little doormat. I tell you what, there's certainly no problem with recruitment to the stock here. I've never seen so many small whiting. It's a healthy fishery.
You've got to wait about 10 seconds and you've got a fish or no bait. That's how it happens here.
So it's a great family fishery. I mean, if you were staying here at Kingfisher Bay Resort, you could come down with the kids, have a bit of a pump, get some yabbies, fish here on the flats. You'd be guaranteed of catching something. I think that's really important for kids. They've got a fairly short attention span. If they don't catch something, they get bored. I guarantee you they'll catch fish here.
Wahoo with
Rex.
Gone Fishing.
And how good's that? That takes me back to my childhood. Fishing in the shallows at the mouth of the Patterson River. It used to be called the Carrum Creek on the eastern seaboard of Port Phillip Bay. Also at Narooma on the south coast of New South Wales, fishing for whiting, for brim, for flathead. And what about that flounder? One of the most fascinating species swimming in the world's seas. Just magnificent. And thanks very much to Bushy and Steve, as I said many, many times publicly, and I've told him privately, even as late as last week, that he is the most technically correct angler I've seen, but he can also catch fish. And Bushy is like me. He's rough as a burnt rice pudding, but my goodness me, does he get the job done. I just wanted young Daniel to remind me about Bob Torreira, who gave them so much information at Kingfisher Bay up there in Queensland, and he put them onto the yabby beds, and the boys just said, oh, we'll get some yabbies and go down the surf and try for the whiting. He said, well, the fish will be here when the tide comes in, and that's just common sense. So what you can do is get your bait, your yabbies or your worms or your cockles, and fish when the tide comes in, because that's when the fish will come in. It was about that deep or a little bit bigger. You've got your whiting species. There's summer whiting, winter whiting, yellowfin whiting, King George whiting, all those sort of grass whiting, which is not a correct name. It's a stranger, a bit like me. And brim species, you know, black brim. You've got the tarwine, which is a species of the brim, flathead and flounder. Just absolutely fantastic for kids. As you know, I used to be a kid myself, and I reckon it was pretty good. And talking about kids, get yourself a bait pump. Get mum or dad or pop and nan to buy you a bait pump, and you'll just absolutely be able to pump your own bait, and then you'll understand what I'm talking about. And an aerator. That's a little machine that blows bubbles into the water that keeps the fish going or keeps the bait going. And also a bait net along those areas where the bait is, and that's the sandworms, the one-armed bandits, which are bash yabbies or nippers, what we call them here in Australia, or pink nippers, and also, you know, other little bait fish, little gobies and that sort of thing. There will be some ribbonweed. Now, as the tide comes in or out, the ribbonweed will flatten out and go at the top of the weed and come back with your little bait net. And you'll get a thing called a shrimp. And that is one of the most fascinating creatures in the world of piscatorial kingdoms. However, the big news is that everything eats them. They're like a donut at a kid's party. It's just absolutely fantastic. Now, what we've got coming up now is another segment, and I thought we were going to go to a Catches of the Week, but it looks like now we're going to go to the 12-mile reef off Sydney Heads. And you know where the 12-mile reef is? It's 12 miles off Sydney Heads. No, it's not. It's a lot further than that, because the 12-mile refers to the length of the reef when it comes off the continental shelf and goes into about 80 fathoms. And I just made that up. I hope it's okay. Thanks for tuning the dial. Baz, I saw that you're on board, the grandfather of the year, and the Saints are back in with a beautiful win during the week. And I saw Jace Lady is there looking up there at Eildon Bait and Tackle. He's the local guide. So get in touch with Eildon Bait and Tackle, and Jace Laddie's your man. He's got the mud eyes ready. He's a good fisherman and a good teacher. I think Bob's looking at me and says, throw to it, Rex. Okay? Throw to it, Bob.
Mate, you can stick that up your jumper. The priority pilchards go priority, and I go down the back with the cargo. G'day folks, Steve Starling, my man here in New South Wales. You're organised as usual, mate, but one thing missing. The boat looks fantastic, mate. Where's the water?
No, not that one there. Tony Davis, he's got the 36-foot power cat over there. He's going to take us out onto the 12-mile reef. We're going to fish the bottom. We're targeting some big nanagai, mowong, snapper, and maybe a really interesting fish called a longfin sea perch or a pinky. I'd like to show you one of those.
I've never seen one, but I know a bloke that has. Steve Starling. Tony Davis and his charter boat Fish Finder operate from the Balmain Peninsula in magnificent Sydney Harbour. Now this would have to be one of the prettiest harbours in all the world. What else could you want? Great company and spectacular scenery. The conditions are perfect, and it will take about 45 minutes to reach our destination. But folks, it doesn't matter if you catch them in the harbour or off the reef. Fishin's fishin'.
Mate, we're a fair way out here. How far out are we? About 24 kilometres, I think. This reef, we're in about 70 fathoms of water here, and that's the thing, a lot of small boats can't come out this far off Sydney. The weather's got to be absolutely perfect, so you really need a charter operation like this to fish it.
Great weather today, a little bit of a chop from the north, but no swell. A lot of people out there will be saying, oh, I'm not going out in the ocean, seasickness, and it is the scourge of people who want to enjoy their sport.
It is, but you shouldn't be embarrassed about it. I get sick, I still get sick today if I go out in the wrong kind of conditions and I don't prepare myself. So I take a pill the night before, I take an Andromen or a Dramamine or something like that, take another half of one in the morning, have a good breakfast, nothing greasy, you know, some cereal, the old barley sugars, suck one of those during the day or munch on a dry biscuit, a little bit of soft drink every now and again. You can keep on top of it, can't you?
Of course you can, it's all in the mind. You keep a nice pocket full of barley sugar, very low calorie barley sugar, everything's okay. I got sprung on national television. Darling, I swear someone's planted a raspberry in my pocket.
I won't let him eat it.
Mate, hey, I'm in trouble now, mate. Might as well be hung for a sheep as a lamb. Sorry to our New Zealand viewers. Magnificent. It's good to be out here with you, mate.
All right.
Let's see if we can bang one on the head.
Yep.
The old bottom bouncing, eh? 70 fathoms of water, you don't use a piece sinker, use half a brick. Here it is, the old Edgar brick. Have a look at that. Unbelievable. About 3/4 of a pound in the old scale. We've got the old Paternoster rig, 2 equidistant droppers coming down from quite a large swivel, about a 2.0. I've got a half of Western Australian pilchard and a full aero squid, and I'm just hoping that something's going to happen. Now there's the basic rig. You can see it quite clearly. The sinker on the bottom, the 2 hooks coming off, equidistant above it, about a 4.0 hook. And mate, 70 fathoms is 420 feet. And I don't think they'll ever high jump that high because it's a long way to the bottom. Down, 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 down. Mate, the old bottom bouncing, you can't beat it, eh?
No, it's good fun. Oh, there's a bite.
Good boy.
Yep. I reckon the good thing about it is you never know what's going to come up next, you know.
Yeah, I think you can target species like snapper and kings and that sort of thing, but you'll probably end up getting them. But I think the real joy is in the raffle, in the lottery, isn't it?
That's right. It's like putting your hand into that lucky dip. You just don't know what you're going to pull out.
You've got to go to the gym and pump a bit of iron, mate. I tell you what, I just had a call from my son before on the mobile. He's with Graham Baker at Bermagui, and we're hoping to see Graham later on in this series, and he got himself an 80-kilo yellowfin, mate. Pump iron, eh? Be a macho man.
Fantastic.
How's it going, mate?
Working up a bit of a sweat here.
Oh, hey, mate, you and I don't work up a sweat, we work up an appetite.
This is true.
Talking about that, mate, I am hungry.
There's a lot of weight has come off there now, and you know, a lot of people would say, oh, the fish has got away, but I think what's happened is I got him to that point where his air bladder has expanded because of the decreasing pressure, and he's actually starting to float up now with the line.
That happened to me up the front of the Qantas plane. I had to ask to get out, mate, at 30,000 feet. My air bladder went woof, the old woofer valve gave a bit of pressure, mate. And it's the same sort of thing. What is it?
Got a bit of colour.
The bends or something they get, is it?
Yeah, it's just like when a diver gets a benzo, a nice Mowong.
A Mowong?
Yep.
Mate, fantastic. You're doing well. The hometown crowd. Is that a blue Mowong?
No, that's what. Sometimes they call them blue Mowong up here, but they're different to the ones down in South Australia.
It's a blue, green and brown Mowong, and I thought I recognised it. Mate, it's got lips like Tina Turner, you know, magnificent, isn't it?
Well, one of its common names up here is blubberlip Mowong. And that's a great table fish. Every bit as good as your snapper or anything else if you clean it up and look after it.
Ooh.
We'll get him into the ice slurry.
And an interesting thing, mate, Tina Turner, you know, the rugby league last night was magnificent, if you're a Queenslander, you know, but simply the best. But, mate, she left her earring behind. Have a look at this. What is this you're using? Now, you haven't let me in on this. You put me on a dirty old pilchard and you're using Tina Turner's earrings, mate.
Well, this is one of these sabiki rigs, just like the ones the Japanese use, but this is an Aussie homegrown one. It's a bloke in southeastern Queensland, up near where Dave Green lives, that got onto making these, and they're a big, serious-sized sabiki rig for Australian conditions. They're great.
Well, that's a serious size, mate, with a few chips and a bit of salad just to keep the dietitian happy. We're in business tonight, mate.
Just so much fun. And look, just so I can put it out there, and I think I have many, many years ago, I get seasick. So there's no problem, and you don't have to miss any fishing, because you walk into our chemist warehouse and just say, I need some Travacam or I need some medication, and you've got to check the back of it because you can't drive a boat and you can't drive a car, you know, after you take it. But if you want to go out on the ocean, you're going to miss out on a lot of fishing if you get seasick. And it's something that I kept to myself for a long, long time. But because that was my living, you know, broadcasting footy and doing television on fishing all around the world, it sort of narrowed our opportunities because I got seasick. But one of the big game fishermen of the past, Jack Davey, who was a fantastic radio man in the ilk of Alan Jones or John Laws in Sydney, he got seasick, but he was a magnificent shark fisherman, and his best friend, Bob Dyer, caught some magnificent white sharks. Thought you'd be interested in that. I can see by your response, no. Now, before we go to our community catch of the week, Bob suggested we put a bit of a thing on our Facebook and get you to send out your catches. I'll go to them in a minute. And I just wanted to say to Robbie Alexander, who's got his own site, Robbie Fishing, he was mentioning that I taught him to fly fish. I didn't. I just showed you the way I fly fish, Robbie. And the thing about it is I'm just so proud of you because you're just an ordinary guy who's done extraordinary things. And you'll catch a redfin in Lake Hume, or you'll be chased by a copperhead snake up the top of the King River. You're an absolute beauty, mate, and you're a dear friend. You're not a fair weather friend, and I think you know what I mean. Okay, the community catch of the week. The first slide that Daniel's going to put up is a magnificent Murray cod, and this is Bree Shepherd. So there you are. I'll just hang on a minute, yeah, and just highlight that, please, Daniel, as we go down because I can't see the thing. There's the next one. Is Ray Plant, his first barramundi, 114 centimetres. I reckon there's got to be 40 or 50 pound, but anyhow, I'll bow to better brains out there. And then we've got Billy Wolford, his first estuary perch, and what an absolute beauty it is. It lives with the brim. Lives with mullet, yellow-eye mullet. That is an absolute ripper, and congratulations to you, Billy. Now, the next slide will come up in a minute. It will be Joey Russell, so hang on, Joey, you're coming up now with a yellowtail kingfish, and a yellowtail kingfish, also called a kingy, and they're right down the east coast of Australia and down in Tasmania, and even as we speak, my granddaughter Mia, who's 12 years of age, caught a beautiful yellowtail kingfish with her father down near Phillip Island at the entrance to Western Port. And so we can just, we're live, and I've just got a, I think that's it. So there you are. So keep them coming. Get onto our Facebook page, Rex Hunt Fishing Adventures. Now, before I go to the next one, no, it's not going to work again. I was going to acknowledge somebody else. But it's great to have you on board. And now it's time to go to Vanuatu. One thing that I was proud of in my 15 years that Bob and the crew allowed me to take Lynn along because I didn't get married to leave Lynn in Melbourne and me go gallivanting all over the world fishing. But we went to Vanuatu, and the thing that she remembers about Vanuatu when I mentioned it the other night is a beautiful chicken. They free-range chickens, natural, beautiful taste of the chickens, just magnificent. But also was pretty good was the fishing. And if you want to see a GT, cast your peepers on this next story.
Well, folks, a familiar face to a lot of you is Peter Pakula of Pakula Lure fame on the Gold Coast, on the south coast of Queensland. So tell us about the Peter Pakula fishing schools.
Well, Rex, basically the concept of the fishing schools is purely to give people confidence in the sort of fishing they do, run them through all the systems of blue water fishing, whether it's game fishing, sports fishing, chucking poppers at reefs, any of that sort of stuff. You know, basically because of my job, I've got to do an awful lot of it. I can teach people quite easily, and in an area like this, you know, with Marcus in his boat, with the tour organisers, it's just a very smooth operation in the best part of the world, mate. There's no better place on earth that I've been to, Rex.
And I tell you what, the fishing doesn't look bad. I tell you what, when you can just throw something like that, which is virtually a can of soft drink or a can of beer with a couple of trebles hanging from it, mate, we're doing all right.
And watch things explode all over it.
So, folks, I'm going to go to the Peter Pakula Fishing School. Hopefully I can learn something and get my own fishing show one day. Thank you very much.
Good on you, Rex.
just get this boat out of this reef area a bit because something has nailed this popper.
Turn quick, Dave.
And it is Poporama. Absolutely Poporama. Now we can settle down to fight this fish. You're talking about a mean critter. An absolute mean critter, folks. Has nailed this popper. Oh. You've got to understand that there's pressure on that particular spool is just enormous. Shimano, 6500 bait runner, 7 kilo line, 10 kilo tippet. And something has nailed that as if there's no tomorrow. And the pressure on that is just awesome. Are there any questions?
I reckon you're in for about a 6 or 7 kilo one.
Starting to get a little bit of line back here now, but this is a very big fish. Tell you what, folks, this is no Port Phillip Bay flathead. We're a whiting from Sydney Harbour. This is a big fish. I think he might go a bit better than 6 or 7 kilo. I think Pakula better stick to making lures and give away the predictions and leave that to people who know a bit about it. But this is a good fish. This is a good fish. Got a bit of colour out there now, Noel. Bit of colour.
There's 2 bits of colour.
Yeah. There's something behind it. What is it, a shark?
Baby shark.
A baby shark is behind this fish.
Actually, it could be another GT. Could be its mate.
There's no cobia out here, is there?
No.
Well, there's something behind it, but I think you'd go a bit better than 6 or 7 kilo. It's another GT. Any chance of you getting that one on, mate? No?
Yeah, but there we go.
All right, well, we'll just let him go. But that's a fair sort of a hunk of a fish.
Oh, yeah.
I reckon 6 or 7 kilo might have been a bit light on for the old Pakula, the makers of the lures. Have a look at that.
Have a look at that little one.
Look at the fish behind him, folks. Now, this is serious stuff. This is absolutely serious stuff. How do you want to play this, mate? In towards you?
Yeah.
Ooh. Holy mackerel. Come down here and have a look at this, folks. Have a look at the mouth on him. Isn't that a serious fish? What I'll do now is just back off my reel in case Peter Pakula can't control this fish, but he can because he's a fish man. He's a macho man, Big Pete. I tell you what, Joe will be glad of you, mate. Have a look at that. That's 6 or 7 kilo, eh?
It's a big 6 or 7 kilo, isn't it? Congratulations, Rick. That is a fantastic
Well, thank you very much, mate.
Fantastic
If I can get a little set of pliers out there, mate. I tell you what, isn't this fantastic? Well, you can still smell the brand new fiberglass off this 34-foot Blackwatch. Vicky's choice here at Vanuatu, folks. But I tell you what, let's have a look at her. Absolutely magnificent. Give us a bit of an idea of what you think she is, mate.
She'd be a good 13 kilos, I'd say.
That's terrific.
And that is a spectacular capture because you probably get 1 in 50 of these that you hook off the reef, Rick.
I reckon. Give us 30 pound, will you, folks? Don't write in. Just give us 30 pound.
I reckon.
I love you, darling. I'm going to let her go. I'm going to let her go. She's going to slide over the side and she's going to live and just reproduce some more for us. Off you go. So, folks, I'm hooked on Vanuatu. Coin every now and again into the Bicky bin, and Lynn and I, and even Missy, if we can get it across the Pacific, are headed for Vanuatu. Because if I'm going to die, well, it's not a bad place to die, folks. Oh, I feel faint.
Just great memories. It's a lovely place to go. Similar with Two Dogs Crombie at Lord Howe Island, they're places that are so close to us. And look, on a serious note, my wife and I used to love going to Bali. We used to love just going to Hong Kong virtually for afternoon tea, just to see people just in their normal, way of going about life, and that's all changed now. But I think one of the things that we can look forward to is the opening up of places like Vanuatu and Lord Howe Island, and even with Johnny Pierce up there in Thailand, because they're doing okay, and we just need to be a little bit patient, and we've got to get the jab, and then we can work on things. Now, I wanted to mention a couple of things just watching that, is that I believe many, many years ago, when I was just starting off in radio or print with modern fishing, that breaking strain, to my thinking, was when the angler's patience is spent. In other words, you break the fish off. And you can see now, with the big Spaniards, with Garry Barmby and the GTs, with the GT with Peter Pakula, who's an absolute legend. If you want to know, you just type in legend to Google, and you'll see him and his Mrs. Joe come up, just absolutely salt of the earth people. Is that we are just too keen and too quick to get the fish in, and that's the problem with the kids. And grandpas and fathers and aunties and uncles, just take note. When a kid sees a fish, he doesn't want to see when he can't see the fish, because it goes down. I think you get my drift. But just teach them. You know, it'd be like Jace Latey with a trout fisherman who's not a trout fisherman. They see the trout and they freeze up, and bang, the 4-pound maxima goes. And Daniel nearly jumped out of his chair there, because, goodness me, we're in St Kilda, and St Kilda, but enough said. But the serious thing about it is, breaking strain should be when you decide that the fish has had enough. And I think you get my drift. Now, the GoFish Nagambe competition was absolutely magnificent, and we did a promotion there for their raffle, which was sensational. Boat, motors and trailer, depth sounder by Lowrance. But it also raised nearly $90,000 into trying to get a cure for the MS, and which is just a horrible thing. There's no cure. And we've just got to get it. And young people are struck down with it, so we've got to stop that. So the Stacer boat package from Telwater has been won by Jarks Aronfee and his family. So Jarks, absolutely magnificent. They drew out your marble first, mate. Congratulations. The second place, how are we going? The second place is a Lowrance sounder. And before I tell Bob, well, he knows who won it, and he goes to his little bit that he's got there. The Lowrance sounder is the best sounder I've used in the history of me using sounders. And it goes back to late 1960s, when Royal depth sounders were here. And then the Lowrance came into Australia. And you know why? They paid me. My oath they did. They were one of my sponsors. But just like my Nissan, and just like my Lowrance, when I want to go and buy something, Lynn and I buy Nissans, why wouldn't we? We're associated with a magnificent car. They paid us well. The big thing about it is, they're the best cars we've driven in the whole of our lives. So, but also Lowrance, I've got one in my little boat that I take redfin fishing and trout fishing. It's a Lowrance 2017347. In other words, I have no idea what it is. The Savage boys put it out for me there in Streaker Marine, and I paid for it. Paid a lot of money for it, a couple of grand, I think. And apparently it's the best sounder. That's the good news. I rang Paul the other day and said, I'm having a bit of trouble with my sounder. I can't see anything on the screen. He said, go out there, Rick. So I put it out, and the battery's fine. Yeah, he said, can you just turn it on? I said, how do you do that? Anyhow, I turned it on, and it's fine. So I thought it was funny. So the second place Lowrance sounder goes to Colin Cook. So congratulations to Colin Cook. We knew his brother, James Cook. Didn't he cause some strife? I reckon it was the other bloke, Philip. Didn't have a surname. And the third place is a wine package from Mitchelton Winery. Now, I got a late radio show on 3RW here in Melbourne, and I'm sure that half of the people that ring up enjoy a Mitchelton wine, wouldn't they? They're very, very relaxed, and apparently they've got a Shiraz there that's absolutely magnificent. And I'll go into Liquor Warehouse. That's not it. What's the name of it? The big one, Dan Murphy's, is it? Dan Murphy's. We'll go in there and see if we can do a deal. So the winner of that is Brett Sturmfels. Is that your name, Brett? Good on you, mate. All the best. So thanks to everyone. Mario Christodoulou said, "G'day." Joey Russell, Carl Nichols, good on you. Steve Carey. Jace Laddie's still watching. Wesy Best is still there. He's been up the Big River. And I hope you don't mind me blowing your trumpet there, Wes, but you are a magnificent man and a magnificent trout fisherman. That's the good news. The bad news, you're barry for Collingwood in the AFL. And Wes let me in on a secret, and I hope he doesn't get the Shizens here with me, folks, right around the world. You know why they call it the Big River? Because it's big. I want to thank young Daniel, who's getting a big education that he couldn't pay for at Melbourne University, to Bob Grief, he used to be called Bob Grieve, and to his mate, Seist, is it? Who's the cameraman over in the Netherlands. And you know why they call it Holland? Because that's the 2 countries south in the Netherlands. I think that's right, Seist. Anyhow, I'm Rex Hunt and you're not. We'll catch you next time somewhere in the wonderful world of fishing. And let me tell you, this stuff is keeping me alive. And those people who are close to me know how serious I am. See you later.